Okay. How did you get into punk and what year was it?
Yeah, it was I think I was in a grocery store. I was 12, and there was a girl that had, I think it was like an asymmetric cut, and she had like 5 or 6 earrings in her ear, and I was like, where do people like that work at? Where do people who look like it? How do you get a job when you look like that? You know, and and uh, my friend that I was with, he was like, they work everywhere. She can comb her hair or take out the earrings. You can get a job wherever. And I was like, wow. And then so the next year, I think I was like 13, and I went to see the Dead Kennedys.
Nice.
Yeah, it was the Dead Kennedys, the Cro-Mags.
Nice.
Yeah, that was a good. It was another local band that had opened for him, and all these people were there. And it was people that, I guess I probably was some of the youngest people there, but they were like, between 17 and 20. Probably like college age. And I just remember talking to some people, and this guy, he was playing Tempest in the arcade, and I was standing next to him, and he goes, "You want to play?" And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Put the quarter in," and he let me play. And so we started talking, and he was a physics major at the university. And so we were talking about, college and the world and theoretical physics and particle, stuff. And, I was like, wow, this is this is really neat. These are some cool people,
Right.
And to me, I was attracted to the aesthetic, at first, but the whole social aspects around it, from the music, because I was angry. The music, was angry, and it really spoke to something, inside of me. So that's when that's when I really started to champion that cause, because meeting people who would talk about social issues with me at 13, and not talk down to me,
Right.
but talk about whatever it is they were into, and talk about social change. And I never really had it explained to me in a modern context. It was always explained to me as a civil rights issue that black people did in the 50s and 60s, not as a modern issue that we need to change society, today. And then, like I said, I found myself knee deep in it, when I moved from Detroit to Tampa, and had to deal with systemic racism, with racism baked into the culture,
Oh yeah.
And I remember at school, two kids got into a fight. One kid would get sent to the principal's office. The other kid would get expelled.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, this just the clear lines between, what was acceptable for this group of people and then what was acceptable for this group of people.
Yeah.
And I remember one time in English class, I was like, kids were talking and teacher was telling them to shut up, and then she said something I didn't hear, and I asked the guy next to me, and like, what page did she say turn to? And she jumped all over me. I'm like, really? These guys can talk all day long, and you're gonna jump all over me? And then another guy sitting behind me goes, "God, that was uncalled for." So even other kids in the classes noticed how the disproportionate treatment of people, and so at that point, that's when I said, well, shit, things have got to change. If I can't be accepted by mainstream society, then I have to carve out a niche for myself that is a place where I can be safe and comfortable at. Because it's definitely not going to be on the football field with these bunch of rednecks,
Right.
and it's not going to be anywhere where they're at.
Right.
So you had to create this whole subculture in order to be safe, or for me to be safe in Florida. So that was the catalyst for me of saying this is a subculture, punk rock, new wave around music.
Right.
That was our colorless, odorless, magnet, and then what you brought to it is what you brought to it. So you had gay people, you had straight people, you had young people, people who were just a little bit older than us, so people who had moved here that were foreign. I met so many foreign people being in the scene, because
Oh yeah.
so that was a neat experience, culturally rich, diverse, magazine. I remember Maximum Rock and Roll had done articles. We were doing fanzine, the Anguish Mind, Not for Profit, I mean, there was a lot of good stuff going on that was being created by us. You know, and this was all pre-internet. You know,
Right.
it would have imagine
Oh, yeah.
if we had had that back then with that kind of energy. But for us to be able to define it, and so when I became old enough to be out on my own, you know, going out on my own, staying out late, that kind of stuff, you know, which was just a couple of years after that, that experience when I was 12 really had stuck with me, you know, and then it became more and more, you know, a phenomena, you know, you know, so it wasn't just, you know, something on the evening news, or, you know, then it became like every villain seemed to be some cartoon character of a punk rock guy, you know, at that time. But to be able to say that at an early age that I knew that society's fucked up. How it's fucked up, I don't know, because I'm not sophisticated enough yet to understand it. But I know that something's wrong. I know that something new needs to be created, and this might be an avenue to be able to express that, right? To say that, yeah, all you guys that are adults are fucked up, you know, and we are young and we're going to create something new out of it, you know?
Right.
So that was my thought process at that, you know, as a preteen, and really wanting to have a niche that I could call my own, you know, because my dad came out of the jazz movement, you know, my mom was all top 40, you know, but this was mine. This is something that I owned.
Right.
You know, so, you know, and it was something that I was able to, it was a sandbox I was able to play in, something I was able to create. And at a very early age, I knew that was where I could fit in.
Right.
You know, and thrive, and thrive under it.
Nice.
You know, and be myself, be who I was.
Who were some of your favorite local bands?
Oh, I remember Real Cameras, Ice Nine. These are all people that I knew. You know, on one side of the music fence, and the other side there was Jehovah's Sicknesses, Pagan Faith, Belching Penguins. Oh man, there were so many of them. You know, people form bands and then break up and then form other band. Yeah, so they were constantly evolving. You know, situations like a lot of times it's like, what band are you this week? You know,
Yeah.
you know. So those are some of the ones that stand out in my mind, and people I was friends with, who had bands, various bands, a lot of different bands. You know, Dolores Telescope.
Yep.
You know, I mean, I could go. I mean, you know, give me 10 minutes, I'll make you a laundry list. You know, but it was all. And before Dave Matthews, there was a local guy named Dave Matthews that was doing electronic music.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. He even had an album out and everything. And so when I saw Dave, you know, this new Dave Matthews guy, I'm like, I wonder if that's the same guy, but it wasn't. It was a different guy. But it was just amazing, you know. And people who came and played at Neck of Vanilla, and then people that we saw locally, you know, and people who had a van and a guitar, or you know, you could get around. I mean, these were all people that were I assume trying to do something, you know, serious, you know, with their musical skills, their musical talents, that were using punk as their vehicle to do it. And I was just happy to be able to create a space for them to be able to showcase, you know, their talents, you know, because there's some really good musicians.
Right.
You know, I don't know. I didn't track them after that because my life took a different path. But yeah.
What do you miss most about those days?
To be that young and naive. I mean, to be that naive. I mean, I remember the cops pulling up to the club one night and saying, "Well, we can be here in 2 minutes, or we can be here in 20 minutes. It's all up to you." And then the next night, some gangsters pull up in the alley in a car and pop the trunk and say, "You guys need some protection." had a trunk full of Mac 10s. I'm like, what the hell have I got myself into? Then I realized that, well, you get a bunch of teenagers into a space, and guess what? It attracts drug dealers. It attracts a lot of, nefarious people. And I mean, half the time I spent trying to run drug dealers out of my club because I was scared I was going to get busted.
Right.
Not knowing that the mob had the whole thing on freaking lockdown.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, probably the camaraderie, to be young, naive, and to feel that close to other people.
Right.
To have that many friends. To me that was the crowning achievement. If I could, go back and do it all over again, I would be kinder to people, because I think I was a little crass and maybe a little short. Not fully socially developed the way I should have been. And that was part of being punk, right? Being tough. But I would have been kinder to people, and would have spent more time listening,
right.
to some people who were trying to give me some really good advice.
Right.
That's what I miss about that, is that people really genuinely caring about you and being there for you. I mean, like literally just like being right there, whatever you needed.
Right.
That to me is something that I think is in short supply nowadays.
Oh yeah.
I think that through mass marketing and commercialism and the sterilization and this packaging of Americana, we've lost the ability of society to really grow these new type of innovations. Because the kid in Iowa now sees it at the same time when the guy in New York is making it up.
Right.
Before it took time for a band to go on tour and the music to circulate, so it had enough time to really percolate and grow some legs and mature.
Right.
Right? So when you went on tour, you tightened your gig up, the band got tighter, you create, now you're on YouTube and it's all over the world overnight. There's not that time to really develop. And I think that what the scene gave us back then was a time for us to grow out of our adolescence into our adulthood, and give us that ability to season up a little bit, to really try to come to grips with what's going on, to move into hopefully a healthy, adult life. Because you had people that were like, yeah, so what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to go to college. Or what are you going to do? I'm going to go to the military. Or what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to get married. So you had all these people really trying to figure out what path they were going to take in life, and having that chance to share and explore. And I guess they could do that now with social networking, but there's nothing like sitting down at a table with somebody and looking them in the eye and having that conversation.
Yeah.
And to me, that's more real than seeing people, on digitally,
Yeah.
to seeing them electronically. I mean, sitting there and looking at somebody, physically being present with them.
Yeah.
That's something that I think this generation is not going to experience the way that we experienced it. That made it a much tighter bond.
Right.
I think. I mean, I think there's just something about a warm body being there next to you. A friend patting you on the back saying, "Hey, it's going to be all right."
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I think that is something that's not replicated electronically.
Yeah.
So that's what I miss about it.
How do you know Tony?
From trying to kick him out of clubs. No. Oh man, him and his gang, man, his group of guys running around Ybor City, causing trouble, sneaking into the clubs. Yeah, that's how I remember Tony.
That's funny. When did you move to Tampa? When did you leave and why? You kind of covered it already.
Yeah. I moved to Tampa to finish school, junior high school and high school, and then I left mainly because of the amount of violence that was going on. This whole, racism. Racism really drove me out of Tampa.
Right.
It was the whole neo-Nazi thing. It was the violence that was directly at me, not like I was on the periphery of it, but it was like people came looking for me.
Right.
You know, so because of that, I decided that I needed to chart a new direction for my life. I needed to go in a different way that was healthier for me psychologically, not just physically. But it's like I couldn't be angry all the time.
Oh yeah.
You know, I couldn't be mad all the time.
Right.
You know, and so that youthful anger about society and its ills became a realization that the problem is bigger than anger is going to solve. You know, anger can get you up off your chair and have you do something, but you have to be educated to the situation to really craft a solution. You have to know what the real problem is.
Right.
And the real problem is that, not that this guy's a bigot, the real problem is that we live in a culture where racism is systemic.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
built into the culture.
Oh, yeah.
So you have to really dismantle those institutions that perpetuate it if you really want to get rid of it. And that's maybe a generational fight. You know, so me leaving Tampa was so that I could get to a healthier place in my life and really do something, you know, positive for me.
Right.
You know, it wasn't because I was scared of anybody. It was because, you know, it was taking a toll on me, you know, psychologically. You know, it was being mad, being angry, being worried of everybody that you're talking to. You know, is he a racist? Is she a racist? You know,
that's how I felt after that one incident that I had. Because when I got out of the hospital, they had just opened the paint factory. And like bands like Jawbreaker were coming, you know, and Agent Orange, and I really liked those bands.
Yeah,
and I
Agent
wanted to
Orange,
see those bands like Dagness. I love those bands, but I was scared, dude. I was
if you're gonna go there,
after that, anyone to me that had short hair was a Nazi.
Right.
After that incident, so
not that they just fucked up their mohawk.
Yeah. So I didn't go to shows for a long time. Well, I didn't go to punk rock shows for a long time after that. So I know exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So for me, it was you know, the whole thing that got me into the scene was the trust and camaraderie, and the breaking of that social contract is what really pushed me out of it. Because, like I say, if you can't trust the guy standing behind you at a show, then what the fuck, you know, if you can't go to enjoy it because somebody's going to try to throw a fist out of nowhere, you know, and you know, it just you know, wasn't worth it. You know, it wasn't as enjoyable. And I think to move into a new phase in my life, to be able to grow the way I needed to grow, and not let that retard me, not let that stagnate my growth.
Right.
You know, I needed to leave and really just start fresh and get a fresh breath of air. And so I was able to do that by leaving Tampa. And you know, and I still consider some of my closest friends here, you know, people that I've known for decades now. You know, so, you know, and we're still in touch thanks to the miracle of modern communication. But, you know, when I look at how the scene started and then how it ended for me, I would never have expected that. I mean, to mature out of it is something that I would have expected more with the change in the music.
Right.
You know, as the music evolved. And then it's so funny because you go back and they do retro nights, and it's all the music that we were begging the DJ to play when we were first, you know, there. So now there's whole industries built around it. And again, it was music that you didn't hear on the radio.
Yeah.
You know, the way you hear it now played, you know, you didn't hear it. You had to hunt it down.
Yeah.
You know, and now that whole situation, I mean, you can get it with 8 gigabytes of music instantaneously. But I think the fun of that, of being able to explore the music, to being able to learn it, to share it with friends, to bring that cassette in and say, hey, have you heard this band? Or go over to, you know, somebody's house. And that's the main reason you had house parties, was because somebody got a new album and you wanted to hear what the new music was. Or somebody went on vacation somewhere and brought back some music from somewhere else, you know, so that whole ability to explore it, you know, that was part of that camaraderie, you know, that I really, really enjoyed. And then, like I said, just the negative twist that it took with the poisoning of the culture, with the, you know, with that influx. I mean, that was the beginning and the end. You know, for me, you know, like I said, we explored it earlier about, you know, once you start throwing bombs, you know, then what? Then I'm going to get a bazooka I mean, yeah, escalation, right?
That's a little
mad, mutually assured destruction. Yeah. And that's what it was. It was madness. And I didn't want to participate in it, so I could remove myself from that equation.
Most memorable shows back then.
B-52s was a really memorable. Oh, Susie and the Banshees, when they played in St. Petersburg, and she leaned down from the stage and sung to me during the Killing Jar.
Nice.
She looked me right in the eye, because I was the only black person in a sea of white people. She looked me right in the eye and sung that song as I lip-synced it.
Nice.
That was probably one of the most memorable shows with Susie and the Banshees. What was another one? Oh, and Ministry. Ministry, that was another good one at Janice Landing. And then then Henry Rollins getting pulled off stage at the Black Flag show, man. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
What I mean, that made, I mean, that was it made news all over the place.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I would go places, people, oh yeah, Henry Rollins got pulled off stage. Like, I was there at that show. I was in Tampa when it happened. So that was a good one. What was another? Yeah. Oh, and then the show that started it all. It was Dead Kennedys. It was Dead Kennedys. A show that really said that, wow, this energy,
Right.
The energy that was there, that that youthful, optimistic, naive energy.
Right.
It was palpable. It was something that you can't recreate. I can go to 1,000 shows and I won't be able to recreate that first show, that feeling of awe, of wonder,
right.
And the energy that was on stage. I mean, I don't, hopefully it was me at that age, and maybe other people at that age will get that same type of feeling when they go to their show, when they go see you play or something,
right.
But yeah, that was a turning point in my life, and it led me on the trajectory, that I'm on now. So it was the Dead Kennedys, yeah.
Nice. Is there anything you want to add?
No, I think that we should be proud of what we did. We created a scene out of nothing.
Right.
And nobody has yet to recreate, that moment, even though they try. I mean, the 80s are constantly being recycled.
Oh yeah.
They're constantly being recycled, and I think that was the last pure social movement. Because you had hip hop going on in the black culture. Then you had a mixing of hip hop and punk. When you talk about Bad Brains and that kind of stuff, and so when you think about all of the music formats that we're listening to today, all of those were the cauldron of those were right in that era, right in the 80s.
Oh yeah.
So I'm proud to have been a part of it. I'm happy that Tony asked me to come and get interviewed.
Yeah.
That yes, there were people of color in the Tampa scene creating stuff, and not at the take out the garbage level or at the security guard level, but actually at the formation of it. And I think that's a history that shouldn't be lost. I'm happy that he's here, and that he's documenting it, and that he's getting people's firsthand accounts. And I'm happy to have been a part of it. I'm happy to have made a positive influence in so many people's lives.
Well, it's an honor to finally meet you.
Hey, the pleasure's mine, man. The pleasure's mine. Trust me.